Welcome to HatChats. Come on in and sit for our spell. We're sponsored by Evermoving We Rise, Moonlight Potions and Charms, and Saul Ravencraft, Wizard for Hire. I am your goddess host, Miss Nikki Kirby, and our co-host, Saul Ravencraft. He is probably roasting in the sun somewhere in Texas. So where are you, Mr. Saul Ravencraft? Where are you, Saul?
Here I am, Nikki. Good to see you. I hope all is well with you today.
It is, but it is still hot. And with the humidity, it's even worse than that.
Oh.
And I'm sure it's even more hot where you're at. Probably in the triple digits?
Not yet. The heat index is showing up triple digits, but it's not quite so bad right now. I don't know exactly what the temperature is. I try not to get that number in my head and just do what I'm doing.
Oh. So I guess wait a minute. I think I'm hearing somebody at the door. So who's at the door?
Well, let's find out. Nikki, it's freelance writer, artist, sitar player, raven and crow whisperer, and our good friend Rick Yampert. Hey!
Hello, people. Hello.
Hey, Rick, how are you doing?
Things are going well in my corner of the universe. Thank you for having me on, for opening the door. It's not always that you get a knock on the door these days that somebody opens it. So, but it's a blessed day.
Well, we could have slammed the door, but I think you would have opened it anyway. I mean, that's what it's for, right?
There we go. There we go.
Well, you're just in time. We're fixing to actually go for our divination for the day.
Okay.
All right. So, Mr. Saul, do you want to know what our divination is?
Oh, always.
Awesome. So, everybody knows what the tea divination is. So, what's in my cauldron today is actually positive energy tea by Yogi. And our tea divination comes from Albert Hubbard, which I'm not sure if he's the one that's over Scientology or not. And frankly, I don't care. But our tea divination is don't take life too seriously. You'll never get out of it alive.
Nice.
All right. So, Rick, what do you think about that divination and how would you apply it?
Well, it brings to mind Jim Morrison, the late great singer of the Doors, who sang and wrote in his poetry, "No one here gets out alive." And it goes back to that carpe diem thing. Just this morning on the radio, somebody was talking about Robin Williams in his role in Dead Poets Society, and he would tell his students in that movie, "Carpe diem, seize the day." Cat Stevens saying, "We're only dancing on this earth for a short while, so let's make the dance wonderful."
Hmm.
And one other thing, I could go on forever about this, but for one of my mantras is life is saying yes. I know a number of people, and myself included sometimes, it's like, oh, I'm going to go do this cool thing. And then it's like, oh, well, I got to do my toenails. And it's easy to talk ourselves out of adventures, small or great, but life is saying yes. So let's do it. Thank you for having me.
Nice.
Nice.
So I poked around on the internet. I did find out that Albert Hubbard is not the same as L. Ron Hubbard. Elbert Hubbard actually died in 1915, so definitely a different dude. But I also, while I was poking around, found this picture, which I think you will be amused by. Check this out.
I love that meme. Since my book has come out, people send me memes via Facebook Messenger or emails or whatever. And crows and ravens have a sense of play, a sense of humor, if you will. And so, any of those kind of memes just really they fit the nature of these divine and sacred creatures who also evidently love playing and having a good time. So, yes, I admire that crow harassing the cat.
Yeah, having Edgar Allan Poe as our Lord and Savior.
Never more. Well, maybe some more. Yeah, we'll see.
Oh yeah, especially now that you've come out with your book, Crows and Ravens: Mystery, Myth, and Magic of the Sacred Corvins. Man, and you have wrote so much on this. Why don't you give us like a brief introduction to it?
Sure, absolutely. Um, the seed of the book came about in 1995 when I made my first of two trips to Ireland. My heritage is Irish and French, and in Dublin, in what's the General Post Office, there's a statue of the ancient mythic warrior Cuchulainn. And the myth says that as he was dying and wounded in battle, he tied himself to a post so he would die standing upright. But there's in this bronze statue, there is a crow or raven. They're not sure which. It could be either one on his shoulder. And I saw that and it's like, what's going on with that? I knew just the basics of my Irish heritage. Anyway, so that spurred my interest in crows and ravens. And when I returned to Florida, my home in Palm Coast, Florida, crows, there are no ravens in Florida. So according to Audubon, so my experience is with crows. Anyway, so I began to feed the crows in my backyard, got interested in them. I was writing for the Wild Hunt, the pagan news website, and my editor there, Heather Green, took a job with Llewellyn. I started posting photos of my Mr. Crow artwork on Facebook, and she said, Rick, why don't you write a book about crows and ravens? I said, yeah. Anyway, so that's how the book came about. The book is a blend, which is important to me because I have what I call my my rational pragmatic brain. And then I have on the right side my mystical intuitive brain, my misty into brain. And they're doing this. So I wanted the book to have the science of corvids, which is the family of birds that crows and ravens belong to. So there's been so much research validating the intelligence of crows. So there's science in it. I wanted mythology and lore, which stretches back 18,000 years. I wanted to find out the earliest mention or citation of crows, and it goes back to the Lascaux cave paintings in France 18,000 years ago. There's a crow-headed shaman depicted on one of the caves. I talk about that in the book. And then my spiritual path is paganism. I identify as pagan. And so the book has rituals and meditations and practices. For me, and to me, it's obvious, crows and ravens are the most intelligent, magical creatures that people will come in contact with. John Marsliff, who's the crow expert, the biologist, wildlife biologist, he's written several excellent books. And they say crows and ravens are found everywhere except Antarctica. Marsliff calls crows feathered apes. That's how intelligent. They're as intelligent as dolphins or chimpanzees and monkeys. But Gaia, the earth goddess, my goddess, in her wisdom and joy, she has put crows and ravens in our backyards. I live 3 miles from the Atlantic Ocean, so I'll see dolphins sometimes when I'm walking on the beach. Uh, the only monkeys or chimpanzees I see are in a zoo, but crows and ravens are right, they're in urban areas. So if you forge a communion with crows and ravens, even if you just observe them, you will begin to see that they have these uncanny supernatural abilities. And for me, that is a portal to get closer to the divine mystery. So that's at the heart of my book. That's the long answer. I hope it's not too long. So science, history, there are historical encounters. The ancient Romans wrote about a very amazing encounter of that a crow helped the Romans win a battle against the warriors from Gaul. That's documented by their ancient history. So there's history, myth, and magic that I tried to touch on throughout the book.
So
Nice.
that is really awesome. Can you tell our viewers the difference between a crow and a raven?
There is a difference. They're in the same family. And I grew up in northern New Mexico, literally 3 miles from the lab in Los Alamos where Oppenheimer developed the atomic bomb. I still haven't seen the movie, but that was my childhood. So there must have been, there are ravens in the West, and I probably saw them as a child, but I don't have any memory of that. So when I write the book, when I was writing the book, my experience is just with crows. I've never seen a live raven, but the differences are well documented. One, ravens are like 20% larger than crows. So if you ever saw two of them together, you would know immediately the difference. That's one main difference. I laugh in a lot of horror or gothic movies where a character will say, "Oh, the raven is here," and the raven will go caw, caw. Ravens don't make a caw sound. They have what's typically called a gronk or a crunk. So their vocal articulations are very different. When they're flying, a raven's tail is kind of more in flight, is more diamond shaped, while a crow's tail is kind of more fan shaped. But if you just see an isolated, black, large, semi-large blackbird, it's difficult to tell. There's excellent YouTube videos that compare the sounds of the two. So that's another way to tell. But they are different. From my experience, well, I shouldn't say my experience, but from my readings, crows tend to be more what I call human gregarious. There's plenty of scientific studies of ravens, and people have forged communion with ravens. There's one well-known scientist, Bernd Reinhardt, if I'm recalling his name correctly. He's written several excellent books on his relationship with ravens, but crows seem to be more people friendly. They will hang out. I see almost as many crows when I go to my Target shopping center, waiting for somebody to drop a bag of chips or something, as I do at my home, which backs up to woods here in Palm Coast, Florida. So I envy those who have both crows and ravens in their neighborhood. Anybody out there want to invite me up for a raven tour? Let me know.
Yeah, I can see that. The thing about crows, and like I was telling you, I've always taught crows, and actually I talk to all kinds of birds. Even on my graveyard walks, I talk to the sparrows that come. I talk to squirrels that cross my path, especially if they go out on the road, and I tell them, I said, get the hell out of the road. it's just one of those things, because I talk to all the animals and try to keep them, out of the road and safe and everything. And there is a lot of crows that are around one of the colleges, actually the only college that we have in this small little teeny tiny town that we have. And people always look at me kind of strange because of the caw that I would always, say to them. And it's really easy to understand the crow. At least I always thought it was. I've come across a couple of ravens in my life, but not very many, because like you said, the crows are the ones that are more friendlier than the ravens are.
Yes.
And I think it's where you go to. So do you think, especially when it came to Edgar Allan Poe, it seemed like he had more ravens in his stories than did crows. So do you think that he misunderstood and thought they were ravens when they were actually crows? Maybe.
It's possible, but from what I've read, I guess he spent most of his time in the Baltimore area. I'm not sure where ravens are not in the southeast. From what I've read, ravens had a dip in population in the northeast because of human aggression, uh, building, and farmers trying to drive them away from their crops. But there was an article in the New York Times from like 3 or 5 years ago that people were spotting ravens in New York City. So scientists, ornithologists, those who study birds, said that ravens are starting to repopulate the Northeast. So it's very possible. Either of those could be possible. Uh, I tend to think it probably would be a raven because I had a friend here in Palm Coast. Uh, he went out west. This was a few months back, and I didn't even know he had paid attention. Not that I would go around proselytizing. I've got a book on crows coming out, but anyway, I must have mentioned it to him. So he visited out west, I think Arizona, and when he came back, he said, "Rick, I know what you're saying about ravens. I they're they're huge. I saw these ravens when I was out there in the Southwest, and I was just kind of surprised that he's just not a pagan, not a animal whisperer, but just a casual person. And it was striking to him that he saw these ravens and how huge they were. So I'm thinking that a raven probably would have been made Poe go, whoa. And he probably, that area probably is populated by both birds. So it's a mystery though. I mean, he was a man of mystery. So who knows?
Yeah, he was also a man who lived a very, very tragic life.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, he did. It's like it was one tragedy after another. I mean,
Yeah.
every woman it's like, oh, stay the hell away from me. I'm going somewhere else,
Yeah.
Okay. And we are going to take a short break. And with that, we're going to go ahead and listen to our amazing sponsors. And we will be right back with HatChats. So you stay tuned. Anybody can tell you what is on a tarot or oracle card. What matters is seeing beyond what others may not be able to see and help the client to uncover what lies in the mist. What do readings from Moonlight Potions and Charms do? Wednesday, I did this ancestor reading, and it was an amazing reading. And it was a detailed reading. And I remember talking to this customer's ancestors, and it was so delightful and he wanted some questions to be answered about the magic in his family because he didn't know. And his family was mostly like most of our families are. You know how everything is like hush hush when it comes to the magic in his family. And he wanted to know who can he actually talk to about the history of the magic in his family. And I was able to give him specifically who he can go to talk to about that. What particular deity he can actually go to be able to help him with this. And it was just an amazing reading, and talking to his ancestors. They were such a delight, and they told me so much about this customer. It was just an absolutely wonderful reading for him, and I was just so happy to be able to give him this wonderful reading. It's really amazing to be able to give people these readings, these products that's really going to help them, and be able to give back to the community, because this is what Moonlight Potions and Charms is about. We want to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. That is what we are all about. It's to help you to do that. Book now and allow our wonderful staff to take care of your spiritual reading needs. And there is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. Have you heard? The King of the Crossroads, Papa Legba, has graciously opened the roads, paving the way for the Papa Legba Altar on the Go to be nominated as Outstanding Product of the Year in the 2024 Witchcraft and Occult Media Awards. Makes Papa Legba Altar on the Go stand out? Complete traveling altar kits. Everything you need for sacred space is right at your fingertips, all neatly arranged in a mystical painter's pail. And it's compact and convenient. A perfect, powerful temporary altar, whether you're a modern nomad, a military soul on the move, or a wanderlust-stricken traveler. It also has additional space for the personal touch. As customization is a key to your spiritual journey, the Papa Legba Altar on the Go leaves room for you to infuse your unique energy. Moonlight Potions and Charms and Papa Legba invites you to join the spellbinding spectacle at the 2024 Witchcraft and Occult Media Awards. Cast your vote for the Papa Legba on the Go as the Outstanding Product of the Year. Your support fuels the magic. Go to https://rb.gy/PC3F11 to cast your vote. Remember, your altar is not just a space, it's a step in your magical journey. Explore the depths of your inner self by visiting Moonlight Potions and Charms at mpcmagic.com. Be ready to embrace the power of your own magic. Have you wondered what spirituality is? Spirituality is limitless, as it does not contain any boundaries on beliefs or practices. Spirituality's most important component is personal experience and allows one to explore it freely. Evermoving We Rise is a spiritual moving tradition, as our name is our lifestyle, because we are persistently rising and moving forward. We realize that everyone's spiritual journey is extremely personal, but more easily traveled with reinforcement. We'll teach you to become friends with your shadow, emerge your authentic self, and give you time and space to develop your own spirituality. And when situations bump back, you'll have the entire community behind you, as we are a magical family who work to sustain each other. Discover the benefits of working within a society dedicated to helping you grow on your personal path. Visit us on our website, Linktree, or Facebook page and discover why we don't fit in the box. And welcome back to HatChats, and I am here with Saul Ravencraft, and we are here with the Crow and Raven Whisperer, Rick, and let's go. So, Rick, you were talking to me about how to approach ravens and crows if we find one that happens to be on the ground and they may appear to be dead. What shall we do? Because you know how us pagans, we like to bury or like to pay or how do you say, our homage or
honor. Yes.
Honor. There we go. There's a good word. Honor.
Well, there are several things to consider, both practical and magical. The first time I saw a dead crow out my living room window, I guess it was about 8 or 10 years ago, in my backyard here in Palm Coast, Florida, and I was like, just kind of like, And it was kind of laying on the ground with its wings slightly spread out. And then I almost had a heart attack because after watching it for about 3 to 5 minutes, it got up and flew away. I'm like, what the heck was going on? Well, I did some research and found out that crows sunbathe. They will literally lie on the ground in the sun because biologists theorize it helps brings the oils out of their feathers and will help eliminate parasites. So the first thing is, don't assume that a still crow is dead. But if you were to approach a sunbathing crow, they're going to get up and fly away. So that's one thing. Two, the biological aspects, certainly wear gloves. Carcasses can carry disease or maggots or anything. So that's another aspect. From the magical side, well, this is still kind of practical and magical because crows recognize and remember human faces. If you approach a crow carcass with all the best intentions, crows may look at you as somehow associated with the death of that animal. And if that happens, if they get that impression that you somehow were the cause or contributed to that, they are going to remember. And science has proven, and I write about this in my book, not only will the crow that sees you appear to harm a crow, it will tell other crows, this person is not a friend of crows. And not only that, science has shown that they seem to be able to pass this down to their offspring and other crows. My editor of my book, Heather Green, she emailed me near the completion of my book. She said, Rick, I hear the crows all the time in my backyard here in Atlanta, near it, but I put food out for them, but they won't come. And I don't know that this is the case, but it sounds to me that it's very likely that in the past, something happened to crows there. And so now they shun that specific spot. So that's something else to consider. All that said, then there is this, there are laws that prohibit the possession of dead animals and carcasses and feathers, especially feathers. So there's that to be aware of. But we as pagans, we want to honor and respect and the deceased animals, and because we know that that spirit still resides are they that's still manifesting spirit? So I would say follow your heart. Personally, I would not attempt to harvest a deceased crow if I felt there were other crows around. I would not want to take that chance that they would associate me with that crow's death. Um, but I obviously I do have crow feathers at home that I just found in my backyard. I was watching crows for years and was reading about people who had been gifted crow feather. I thought, why have I never gotten a crow feather? And then literally like 3 days after that, my Beltane pole was up in my backyard. I looked out, saw a crow there, several crows, and then I went out 10 minutes later and there was a feather right by the pole. So I felt that I was meant to have that. And it's just, just a feather, but I really felt it was a gift from the crows. And there's books out there about how to harvest the practical matters of letting animal carcass decompose and all those things. But magically, intuitively, I say if you feel called, and certainly you had mentioned before, like if I saw a dead crow in a road, I would want to get it out of that situation, even as I would lament its death. So, but there's still very much potent spirit, just because our flesh and bone vehicles have shut down, spirit survives and goes on. And I think I think that would be a powerful way to honor any animal spirit. I have a coyote pelt in my home that I purchased from a vendor who I was convinced was very ethical at the Florida Pagan Gathering, who uh, sold animal pelts and bones. And he had gotten this one from a Native American tribe, this coyote, and I felt called, connected to it. It had been killed in a roadkill accident, and he told me the vendor said Native Americans in the Midwest, they have the rights to collect those, carcasses that they find. And so I felt that I was giving it a life after its tragic death. And I feel coyote spirit. It's near my altar. So that can be very potent um, um, to, if you are, so if spirit leads you to that, um, I think it can be ways to open up crow magic, certainly.
So a lot of people associate when they see crows and ravens, they associate that with darkness. Is there any light when it comes to ravens and crows?
Any light? I I
Yeah.
certainly think so. Without and I have a chapter in my book, The Shadowy Side of Corvids, and a brief history of that. It seems to uh certainly part of that is in the ancient army battlefields in ancient Europe, and probably elsewhere in the world. Crows and ravens are omnivores, and they will eat animal corpses and they will eat human corpses. And it's been documented by history and science that they would follow the ancient Viking armies on their raids, or other armies. And the crows and ravens knew that after a battle that they were going to feast. So that seems, from historians and wildlife biologists seem to think that that has certainly fed into human consciousness, this association with death and shadow. But as far as the light aspect, like I may have said earlier, they're such intelligent, magical creatures. You don't have to be pagan or Wiccan uh, if you watch crows or ravens for any length of time, you're going to see that they possess intelligence, abilities, um, And I'm not the only one to say this, but you watch when I watch the crows, they seem to be watching me as much as I'm watching them. I feed them daily. I put out movie theater butter flavored popcorn, which my girlfriend Michelle says, you're going to give them cholesterol. And I put out tortilla chips and crackers, but they love the popcorn. And so they they are very intelligent, and um, they are, for me, and I think, again, you don't have to be a magical person. When the Cardinals come and get the or the Carolina Wrens get the popcorn, you can just tell they're on instinct. They come down, they peck around, they pick up a piece, and they fly away. The crows will come. I've been feeding them for 10, 12 years, and they're still kind of cautious around me. They'll come and look at everything. They will caw. I have a saying: when the crows say jump, I say how high. Every time they caw, I go out and feed them something. Um, but you can see that these are intelligent, thinking creatures with abilities, and science and history have documented that there is almost this supernatural ability. So for me, they are a connection, a portal, if you want to use that word, and I do, to getting closer to the mysteries of nature. Now, if you're just a naturalist and an animal lover, and you watch crows and ravens, you're going to be rewarded by it's going to open up this awareness of how special and magical nature is. If you're pagan or Wiccan and you watch these animals, you're going to feel that there is some kind of divine energy that is manifesting through these creatures. And that's a very positive light thing. So it's a way to get closer to the mysteries of the world. Um, so
Yeah, because see, to me, rebirth is a form of light because you've come in through the darkness, and that's how you see the light. It's kind of like, you know, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I always kind of joke, well, that depends if you actually paid your electric bill or if you actually had the light bulb, you know. If you don't have
exactly.
light, then where the hell's the light?
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Absolutely.
it's always kind of funny because when it comes to crows and it comes to ravens, they're always kind of particular about how they view people and how they see people. But
Absolutely.
if they don't want you around, they don't want you around. And they come to their enemies in packs a lot of times. They don't sit there and just come one by one. No, they come in like packs. You know,
Yes.
you know, they're called a murder for a reason.
They, yeah, yes, absolutely. And again, any Corvid watcher will be aware of these things. And then if you happen to be of a spiritual path like myself, where you see divinity, both a feminine divinity and a masculine divinity manifested in nature, well, here's the evidence, in my book, that there is something going on beyond just the materialistic science of biology and geology. And and believe me, I'm still learning about crows and ravens. That's why I love when I've been doing book signings and meeting people, and doing the podcast that people share their crow and raven encounters. And I'm like, whoa, wow. We mentioned earlier, you mentioned about communicating with crows. I have a whole chapter. That's one of the most practical ways to forge a communion. Their vocabulary is vast. They have what I call the kitty cat call. It sounds like a meow kind. The first time I heard that, I thought there was a cat. Like in the TV shows, the cat's high up in the tree and it's too scared to come down. It was in my backyard. And I kept looking up at the slash pine. I was like, oh, how am I going to get this baby cat down? It's too scared to climb down. And then after 10 minutes, like, it's a crow. They make a cat sound. I've heard it sound like a cooing dove. Their caws are rhythmic and different emphases. And so one of the things I say in the book is you don't have to document it, hundreds of pages, but just kind of keep a crow vocabulary journal. When you hear certain sounds, the circumstances, are there other creatures around, time of day? There's a rooster that lives across the flatwoods about 3 miles away. I hear that rooster in the morning, but most mornings it's the crows who wake me up and it's usually 3 or 5 caws, caw, 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 and sometimes it's caw, 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 and whether that's a wake up call for me or their other crow members. I'm convinced that it's time to get Rick up to bring us some movie theater butter flavored popcorn. So,
Yeah.
so there's now I forgot what your original question was, Nikki. I hope that's relevant. Um,
Yeah, I can see. It's your turn to get Rick up. So you need to go to his window
I,
and you need to sound like a rooster to go to his window here. I think I've even heard a crow sound like a crying baby one time.
I can believe it. I can believe it.
It's
And
it's amazing how they can sound even like humans.
mm-hmm,
It's just
yeah.
really, really amazes me sometimes. And then I
And,
turn and I tell them, I say, you know what? You need to sound like a damn bird. And they look at me like, why do we have to sound like anything?
uh-huh. Yes. Yeah.
It looks that they give you are really human like too, because
Mm-hmm.
you can tell that they actually understand you.
Exactly. Exactly. And people ask me, it's like, oh, all crows look alike. Well, that's true, although I years ago I had a crow come to my backyard. I named her Rockette because when she walks, one of her legs would kick up like one of the Radio City Music Hall dancers. But
Right.
I tell people, however much they look alike, their behaviors, look for their behaviors. I have some crows, not the current batch you come by, but once one season, 3 crows would come by. Uh, they said, jump, bring us crackers, Rick. I'd throw them. They would get the crackers and fly over my house. I was like, huh. Finally, I went out one day just to see. They would take the crackers and land on the roof of my house, and that's where they would eat. Other crows would take the crackers to a certain tree. Some of them have a faster walk and gait. Uh, there's all these different ways to where you can see that they are individual creatures, and they will have, you can see different interactions among them. Sometimes they kind of get annoyed. One time in my backyard, the most crows I've ever seen in my backyard, it was about 20, and one crow was on its back with its wings spread, and the others were just scolding it. Caw, caw, caw. And I don't know what the heck. This crow must have done something. I thought they were going to kill this crow, but they were surrounding it. It was on its back. The other crows were on the ground. And this went on for about 10 minutes. I'm just watching it amazed. And finally, the scolding crows, probably scalding, but they fled, and the bird that was in the defensive position was okay. and it got up and went away. So all these behaviors, you can individualize, see that they have personalities. The squirrels that come to my backyard, most of them, they all look, I mean, you have encountered, so you probably are a squirrel whisperer. I know there's differences there, but the crows, they really do have their own personalities. Absolutely.
They do. They do. And one other question I'm going to ask right quick because we need to go. Are all crows, damn, are all crows, are they all black? Because you've always heard those rumors that there's a white crow there.
Well, I've seen albino crows on the internet, but from my journalism background, we used to have a saying, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. In other words, don't just assume we know what the truth is because we see it on the internet or whatever. So I have seen that look legitimate albino crows, but even more interesting in the British Isles and in places in Europe, there's a crow called the hoodie crow, and it has patterns of gray and black, and its head is black. And I call it the executioner crow because it looks like those old medieval castle movies where, the executioner is wearing a black hood, which is how I think it's got its name. So there are crows with distinctive, other distinctive colorations, definitely. And interestingly, in Florida, we have two kinds of crows, the American crow and the fish crow. But just a month or so ago, there was a news report that somebody saw a hoodie crow in Tampa, which is across the state from me. And it seems to have been documented. And those are native to India and other continents in Europe and Asia. So somehow it seems like a hoodie crow hitched a ride on a cargo ship or something. So I would just freak if I saw one of those in my backyard. So yeah.
Well, so thank you for joining us today. And where can our people find you?
My author page is on my publisher site, Llewellyn.com. I have my own website, rickdyampert.com. I'm usually remiss about updating that. To see my Mr. Crow art, MISTER crowart.com. I take photos of crows. I put the digital woo-woo on them. I don't use AI. I don't use Photoshop. But my crow art is my attempt to visually capture the magical essence of these wonderful creatures that are certainly the main, or at least a main part of my pagan spiritual path. So Mr. Crow Art. And if you want to do the music, my music duo with my girlfriend is wanderingspiral.com. There you can hear and our performances as a duo. So yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been it's always a good day to talk about crows. So.
Well, thank you for coming. Well, that's all for our show today. So embrace your power, support your community, and keep your fuzzy babies, your family, friends, and yourself safe, and have an absolute magical week.
I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk. Nikki Curia with that black stone. I agree, Evermoving We Rise. Life and soul with a beautiful mind. I giving blessings on the moonlight. I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock